Hi there, my name is Marley and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my May reading wrap-up where I talk about all of the books that I read in May. Last month I managed to read 5 books, which seems to be what I'm averaging right now, and that's going to continue to be my goal moving forward, is to read 5 books each month, so kind of like 1 book a week plus 1. So anyways, I'm going to be telling you about the books that I read, starting with Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. If you've watched any of the other videos that I have on my channel, you'd see that I'm a pretty big Colleen Hoover fan, so I was very excited to read her newest book called Regretting You. And to start, I just want to say I did really enjoy this book, and it is probably one of my favorite one of hers. I really don't want to spoil it for you guys, as there are sort of smaller things that are revealed throughout the book, but basically it surrounds a mother and a daughter who both go through something tragic in the family. It's pretty bad. They suffer a major loss, and the story is essentially about their grieving process and their relationship during that, as they are both dealing with an immense amount of grief. So for most of the book, they are sort of at each other's throats, so to speak. They really lack a lot of communication in their relationship, so there's a lot of misunderstanding between them and a lot of resentment. So the story essentially is about the two of them overcoming their grief and learning to communicate with each other and understand each other. And again, I don't want to get into specifics because there's kind of like a twist at the very beginning. Like, you can just go into it knowing nothing so that you don't get spoiled. And I kind of would like you to have the same reading experience I had going into it, which was not knowing very much besides that it was a mother-daughter story. I did read this book in one sitting, which is kind of crazy, so that just shows how good it was and how obsessed with it I became. There is also romance in it, in case, you know, you're someone who needs romance in a book that you read. It obviously makes it a lot more interesting. So the mom and the daughter both have a romance going on, so don't worry. Moving on to the second book that I read in May, it was another one of Colleen Hoover's books, this one called Maybe Now. This book is a sequel to Maybe Someday and takes place in the same world with the same set of characters. So when I heard about it, I wasn't super interested in reading it because I didn't love Maybe Someday. It was sort of like mid in my range of Colleen Hoover's books, but I essentially just thought, why not? I didn't really feel like the first book needed a follow-up, and after reading it, honestly, I still don't really feel like this book was needed. At first, I was pretty intrigued because it followed the character Maggie, who was more of a side character in the first book. We never had her POV, so I was interested in seeing more of her story and hearing from her. But I was wrong. Then the two main characters from the first book showed up, and they both got POVs in the book as well. And so it just basically made it be like the same as the first. And then all of the characters, the stories just got very entwined with each other, and I really would have wanted to see it separate. Like, if you guys haven't read the book, Maggie is the ex-girlfriend of the main guy character. So we always just saw her as the ex-girlfriend. I really would have liked to see her story fleshed out more separate from Ridge, her ex-boyfriend, and his new girlfriend Sydney. Like, that would have been a way better story, but instead it was all of these characters coming together and everything just worked out perfectly. It was very cheesy. It was kind of like all of the issues got resolved very quickly, and all of the characters were just best friends, even though there was cheating between the characters, and the main character had slept with like all 3 of the guys, and their girlfriends like didn't even seem to care by the end. It all worked out a little too well. Like, who would be okay hanging out with their boyfriend's ex-girlfriend? Like, I don't know, it was just like too perfect. So in my opinion, there's not really any reason to read this book unless you really love the first book for some reason and like can't get enough of those characters. But otherwise, I don't think this book really needed a sequel, and even if it did, I didn't really love the direction that this one turned. So overall, not my favorite. Definitely preferred Regretting You though over this one. Then I decided to dive into more of Becky Albertalli's books. I've already read a few of hers, and I decided to read the rest of them, starting with The Upside of Unrequited. Okay, this is a bit of an older book now, but it takes place in the same universe as Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda. However, there's not a huge connection between the books. You don't really have to have known Simon and those characters. It's just basically a side character in Simon's cousin is the main character in this book. So it's about a girl named Molly who throughout her life has had a whole bunch of crushes on guys, as a lot of young girls do, but she's never dated any of them, and she's never even had her first kiss or come anywhere close to it. Definitely relatable for me in high school. While on the other hand, she has this really outgoing twin sister, Cassie, who hooks up with a whole bunch of girls. She is not timid at all to just go for it. And her sister Cassie begins her first relationship with another girl, as she is a lesbian, if you may have been able to tell. She gets her first girlfriend, which drives a bit of a wedge between the two sisters because they were always there for each other, always able to relate, and now suddenly one of them has a girlfriend who she is starting to spend most of her time with. They have to adapt to what it's like when one of your friends starts dating someone and they're suddenly not able to spend as much time with you as they used to. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very cute and very relatable, at least for me, as someone who did not date in high school but had a sister who did, for example. And as you can imagine, throughout the book, Molly does start to put herself out there more and start to try to flirt with boys and try to get a boyfriend, and eventually it does find love, and I found the relationship to be insanely adorable. I liked that the guy who was her love interest wasn't this ultra hot model looking guy, but in this book he was a bit of a nerd wearing his little Game of Thrones t-shirt. He was a little bit thicker. It's not like he was super slim and fit. I like that it just sort of made it more real. I don't think, you know, in romances the guys necessarily always have to look like movie stars. I think it is nice when they actually look real. Not to say there aren't pretty skinny people out there, like they aren't real, but you know what I mean. It's just like a different take on it, and it's more relatable for those of us who aren't models. Anyway, a very quick and cute read for sure. Definitely would recommend. The next Becky Albertalli book I read was Yes, No, Maybe So, which she co-authored with Aisha Saeed. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, so I apologize about that. I have some mixed feelings about this book, but overall they are pretty positive. It's about two teens who live in Georgia who get caught up in a political campaign for the state. This book, when I read it, it's actually gotten more relevant, I would say, with what's going on in the world with the protests and such for Black Lives Matter. This doesn't deal with Black lives specifically, however it does deal with campaigning for social rights, social justice issues. So this actually would be a pretty relevant read for you guys right now. So Jamie is a white Jewish boy and the other main character, Maya, is a Muslim girl. As for their relationship, it is extremely cute and innocent, and one of my favorite parts about the book. In terms of the plot, it is very politics heavy. For example, there is a bill that they want to pass where people in general aren't allowed to wear headpieces or headgear when driving. I think this is based on a real event, which obviously affects Maya's mother, who wears a hijab. So they are, you know, campaigning and doing what they can to make sure that this bill does not get passed. Along with that, as I've said, there is a campaign going on. The two teens are trying to help their local state senate so that the candidate they are rooting for, who has better ideas and is less racist, can win. So there's a lot of activism involved. These political and racism topics did interest me in the book, since I haven't seen too many books really focus on characters who are interested in protesting and getting involved in social issues. And it was really nice to see these two young characters care about it so much and be so passionate. Overall, I think the messages were really great and really important, especially for young people to read about. So I would definitely recommend this to anyone interested in reading about politics and who also like some cute romance on the side. The final book that I read in May was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I've decided that I want to join the masses and start reading Sarah J. Maas. Although a lot of people on some of my previous book videos did let me know that they haven't read Sarah J. Maas either, and they don't always read mainstream books. So it was nice to know that not everyone has read her books. However, I do kind of want to jump on the bandwagon and read such a popular series that is Throne of Glass. And honestly, I loved it like so many people. I feel like it's been so long since I've read a good fantasy book. I've just been reading so many contemporaries lately that it was nice to delve into this fantasy world again. I definitely missed it. But if you don't know what this book is about, it follows a girl named Selena. I think is how you say it, Selena. She is a young assassin. Her parents were killed when she was young, and she was taken in by this assassin trainer who trained her to basically be the best assassin in the land. assassin, but she gets captured before this book starts, and she's been in this mine slavery camp for about a year now. Then she gets taken to have a meeting with the Prince Dorian, who tells her that the king, his father, is looking to have his own personal assassin, and he wants to enter her as his champion into the competition that the king's going to have to see who will win and be his champion or personal assassin. In exchange for her winning, she will have to work for the king for 4 years, being his assassin, doing whatever he says, and then she can get her freedom. So obviously she takes the deal so that she can win her freedom back. And basically this first book just follows that competition. As you can probably figure out, she does pretty well. This is a series, so I'm not super sure what the rest of the series is going to be like, but basically it follows an assassin in this fantasy world, and it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more about the world, finding out more about it, since this whole book did pretty much just take place in one location in this castle. Honestly, it sort of reminded me of the book Divergent, where all of the Dauntless initiatives are going through this training and having these tasks. That's kind of what this book is about. She's training for the competitions, and they have a whole bunch of different rounds to eliminate each of the contestants. Also, there is a love triangle, which is always fun. At least for me, I enjoy them. I've heard people talk about it for a while, and I wondered which guy I would like. The one is the Prince Dorian, and the other is one of the warrior knight guys. I can't remember the terms anymore, but I believe his name is pronounced Kale. And honestly, I like both of them. Like, I ship her with both guys. I probably lean more towards Dorian, the prince, but I definitely like her relationship with Kale as well. So I guess right now I can't really be disappointed in the love triangle, which is always nice since I like her with both. Anyways, overall I really loved it, and I read it very quickly, so I look forward to reading the rest of the series. And then after that, Sarah J Maas's next series. This may take me a while. I'm maybe just gonna be aiming to read one of her books a month and fitting in a whole bunch of other books in that month as well, so I'm not just only reading her books, although I could see myself getting addicted to them because the first book was really good. So anyways, enough of my rambling about these books. This is what I read in May, and I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about them if you have never heard of these books before. I hope you pick one of them up. The top ones I'd recommend would be Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, the first book I talked about, and then Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. Those would be my favorites of the month. If you're interested in seeing more of my monthly book wrap-ups, please subscribe. Anyways, thank you guys. Stay safe and support the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on right now. There's so many resources out there right now. I'll put a link to the website in the description just to do my part. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!